Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Spin and Prog with me, Tara. And today I have a very special guest with me. I am so excited about this. I have the incredible Ian Price, the Prog Frog. Ian,
thank you so much for having me.
Introduce yourself and tell us all about you.
So I am Ian. I host a sort of young person's guide to prog rock. I guess the Prog Frog is just because my lovely wife has been inserting the delightful little Prog Frog into all of the album covers. That's as deep as that connection goes. But yeah, so we've been going through the rise and fall of progressive rock, my favorite type of music, basically one album at a time. So we started at Beatles' Revolver, hit Sgt. Pepper's, got to the kind of early psychedelic stuff, and now we've just finished season 2, which is all of the classics, your Close to the Edges, your Dark Side of the Moons, your Brain Salad Surgeries. So yeah, we're having a good time. Currently on hiatus, got a few fun mid-season stuff, and then we'll come back for 1970s prog with Rush and Supertramp and all the classic rock prog that I know you prog monsters love. So
yes, absolutely. I'm going to link Ian's Instagram in the description below. Go and check it out and look at those graphics with the frog in the album covers. It's genius.
Yeah,
she's had a fantastic.
Yeah, she's had a wonderful time doing it. I think Trilogy is probably the masterpiece.
Yeah,
so go look at Trilogy. That was a good one. But we just finished the mid-70s King Crimson Trio, and I can't look at Lark's Tongue and Aspic without laughing. So anyways, go have a good time.
Yes, and of course, check out the podcast, which will also be linked below. It's absolutely fantastic. Ian is a fountain of knowledge on prog. Is why I have decided to bring him in today for the Whimsical Prog episode, because who better to do whimsical than the Prog Frog himself?
Thank you so much. Ian, no, it was funny when you asked. It was like I've been training for this my whole life, because I've got prog rock in one part of my heart, and whimsy is the other half of my soul. So I was like, this is peanut butter, this is jelly. Let's put them together.
Yeah, your Instagram was just screaming whimsy at me. I was like, I'm gonna have to watch this. I can't let this slide. So here he is. Now, Ian, the definition of whimsical is appealingly quaint or fanciful in a playful way. Now, the first thing that comes to mind with whimsy and prog for me is the Canterbury scene. What say you?
So Canterbury scene is, prog's fun, jazzy neighbor. I don't know. Yes. Maybe it's like a younger cousin. I don't really know. But they kind of came up as all the big bands were obviously getting famous in the London clubs. Down in the sleepy Kentish gardens of Canterbury. So it's a quiet little town in the southwest, southeast of England. There we go. Quiet, cute little whimsical town. I don't know if you've been. It's lovely university. It's a beautiful area, cute town, lovely kind of gardeny suburbs, all that sort of stuff. And it's just a consequentially really kind of chill, jazz-obsessed music. And they love their solos, and they love being quirky, and they love being weird.
Yes, yeah. Now, one of the first bands that I had ever heard of from the Canterbury scene was the Soft Machine. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, like this is really out there. It was kind of all over the place. So I was like, I like this. So I dove in, and that's when I discovered Caravan. Yeah. And I think it was the dog, he's at it again. Was the first song I heard. And I was like, this is brilliant. So when I wanted to do this episode with you, of course, The Land of Grey and Pink was what I wanted to talk about. And I know
absolutely
you have done a lot on the Canterbury scene on your podcast as well. And you have a little graphic as well of The Land of Grey and Pink with the frog in there. So, yeah, I mean, I want to hear your opinion on the whimsical side of it. What do you think of the grumbly grimblies and all of this stuff?
So Canterbury's, or not Canterbury, sorry, Caravan is probably up there with my favorite prog bands of all time.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Soft Machine there, Gong, Camel, all of these kind of classic Canterbury bands are fun. They're interesting listens, but they can be really jazzy sometimes.
Yeah.
I think what's amazing about Caravan specifically, and even more specifically In the Land in Grey and Pink, which is kind of their blockbuster album, I think they have a real, almost Beatles-like attention to melody. They have two great songwriters and two very good singers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think having just like solid songs that are always fun, always funny, which is what you're getting at with the dog, he's at it again.
Mm-hmm.
The Land of Grey and Pink with its grimbly grumblies, like they don't mind having a bit of a joke. The first song on this album is Golf Girl, which is just a lovely little vignette about a guy flirting with a employee at a golfing golfing range or whatever.
Wearing latex to bring me a cup of tea.
And it's just these little kind of quirky slices of life. It's very much in the, as I say, the land of the Beatles and stuff. Then the one thing Caravan and all the other ones really add is the jazzy soloing. And their solos are so melodic. And these songs, have this fun, like, vocal imagery, very beautiful melodic vocal lines. And then they just go off into really cool keyboard solos. And later on, like, violin solos, and their guitar solos are beautiful. And they just have a really good sonic quality. Yeah. And I would even suggest everyone go listen to their live album, Shows of Our Lives, which is a compilation of their kind of live career. And you can just hear how good they are instrumentally and how good they are kind of in an orchestration sense.
Yeah, and they had a very unique sound, didn't they? You didn't hear anything like Caravan, and you can just instantly recognize them when they come on.
Yeah, no, and it's funny because you'd think whatever that keyboard setup is, it's replicatable, but I don't think I've ever heard the keyboard sound quite the way David Sinclair played it. Yeah. And it's lovely.
It is. It's fantastic. Oh, so good. But yeah, like you said, the writing in there was full of whimsy and that kind of English sense of humor, which is just brilliant, And I know a lot of people across the pond in America and Canada struggle to understand it, and they're like, this is kind of fun. But, you have to be like, no, you don't get it.
Well, I think, and you're right, I think the, at first blush, Caravan feels like the type of prog your parents warned you about, where it's like, tee-hee, like they're all looking at goblins and dragons and, all that sort of stuff, and it's too whimsical almost. The cover of this, The Land of Grey and Pink, is like a bunch of little toadstool houses essentially. And then I think like within a few listens, it's both completely unserious, it's ridiculous music, but Caravan specifically captures a really easy breezy kind of fun Canterbury scene prog. Yeah. That for instance, Gong and Camel can really drive off that whimsy cliff pretty hard. Yeah. They're a lot wilder. Yeah. So
before we get into the next band now, I just want you to tell the people what you told me about the colours of Grey and Pink. What do they mean?
Absolutely. So the Land of Grey and Pink, I had always been like, it's the Land of Grey and Pink, whatever. There's so much nonsense, almost like Edward Lear style lyrics in the rest of the song. I was like, whatever, it's the Land of Grey and Pink. I didn't question it. And then one of my co-hosts on our episode brought up like, it's referencing the grey of the UK kind of weather and the pink of the local stones they used in Kent. And I was like, there's no way. That seems way too clever. And Kentish ragstone down in Kent is their local building stone. So for those abroad, a lot of the cities in the UK will use their local quarry. So you have really cool kind of localized building material in, Aberdeen's the most famous one up in Scotland. It's the Granite City. Edinburgh has this beautiful kind of sandstone, and Canterbury down in Kent has this Kentish ragstone. So there's the pink.
That is so clever.
Wild.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say hardly anyone even knows that that's what the colours were meant to represent. So fantastic.
I wouldn't have thought that either.
Yeah, no, when you said it, when I saw you, Ian sent me his notes before we were filming, and I was looking at him and I was like, oh my God, I had no idea. So thank you very much for that little nugget.
Yeah, it's a good nugget.
It is. Now, we were talking about Gong a lot there, and I think they are definitely next in line behind Camel for the most whimsical in prog. You've got the pothead pixies, the flying teapot, the radio gnome invisible emitting waves to planet Gong and its inhabitants. What is your experience with Gong?
So I have listened to I believe the Teapot trilogy, I think it's called, a handful of times, and I find them to be fun, but they lack a melodicness that I require. So Caravan is just top of this kind of subscene, and then Camel is right under it, and then Gong and Soft Machine come in a third and a fourth down there. And I really like that they stretch, and boy do they stretch. But yeah, no, I regret to say they're a bit outside of my wall, my wonderful Canterbury wall.
Yeah. So you're not really into the kind of the jamming and going off into a kind of musical tangent.
Yeah, and actually, this is a really interesting thing. I've really learned more about myself doing the podcast. So I had always been of it's prog, so it has to be 20 minutes long. And if you can give me more jamming and longer songs and more solos, and then going through the, kind of through these albums, and I think we're up to like 40 albums so far, I really like a good song, as it turns out. And we'll get to it down the road, but like Pink Floyd's first album, they get these really nice, beautiful little, 3 or 4 minute songs. And I actually really think there's a craft to doing a crisp song. Yeah. Though I do respect a good jazzy jam. So tell me about Gong. What is your
all right, no problem.
Your whimsical side. Go.
Well, I first heard Gong when I was a little girl. I heard Camembert Electrique, and I was sitting there. I had taken my father's copy of it, and I was with my colours, started colouring in the cover of it, which he probably saw as an act of vandalism. But I was hearing all this madness and stuff about cheese and weird stuff, and that stuff just appeals to me. I don't know why. It's probably a bit concerning actually, but no, I started to dive into them, and when I first heard the Pothead Pixies, I was hooked. I thought, this is fantastic. It's a real catchy tune. It's full of energy, and it's got a crazy story behind it. And concepts, I love a big intricate concept, and 100%. To have done this across a trilogy was genius to me. So it's kind of poking fun at people who use religion to scare and fearmonger people, pretty much. And I love that. Poke fun at them all you want, lads. And the way they do it is so weird and so fun. I am your pussy, all these strange characters. It's and I'm big into jazz fusion as well. Yeah. And I think that definitely plays a part in it. I love Gong 2 as well as the first Gong, but the first one holds a special place in my heart.
So it's funny, now that you mention it, what my relationship is to Gong. For absolutely no reason, I have no idea where I found it. Gong 2 was part of my first kind of batch of prog. I don't know why. And for those at home, Gong 2 is when the Gong, when Gong's percussionist took over the band and it was like, just kidding, everyone, we're doing percussion jazz now.
Yeah.
We're done with the psychedelia. We're just doing percussion jazz. And Gong 2, I think it's the first album off of that new kind of session of Gong. It's fantastic.
It is.
And that's what I thought Gong was. And it was funny because later I was like, kind of discovered all the psychedelic stuff. And I was like, that's so weird. I don't know what a jazz percussionist is doing with a concept album about, a gnome up in a teapot. I didn't even know he sang, but yes, it's a whole different Gong. Lovely though. Yeah.
Yeah. So Gong 2, they bring in Alan Holdsworth and Pierre Morland takes over, and it's really, really high level jazz fusion, and it's fantastic. It's completely a huge step away from Gong, the first Gong. Cody is here. He's probably going to pop in and say hello. Are you?
Yeah.
Cody, Ian, Cody.
Nice to meet you, the Prog Frog.
Good to meet you, Cody, the vinyl wizard.
yeah, the vinyl ambassador. That's right.
Yes,
the vinyl ambassador. There we go.
See, I told you he'd know who you are.
Oh yeah. I want some of your playlists on Apple Music when you can.
I'm going to attempt. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
It's tedious. But, yeah. Fair enough. But you guys continue on. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. Ciao, ciao.
Love you. Bye. All right. Where were we? Gong. So yeah. I mean, it's hard if you got into them through the jazz fusion end. I can see why you'd be a bit like, whoa, like where's all the madness gone, and what is this? It's really odd. But I think it's, again, that English sense of humor, that weirdness behind it.
It's weird. Yeah.
One thing I said to Ian when I first messaged him was, I feel like you watched The Mighty Boosh.
I absolutely do. Yep.
He was like, yeah, I do. I was like, I knew it. And it's humor like that I think goes into this prog, that real Englishness.
Yeah. No, and I think, all the way back to the very molten core of like Monty Python, I think when you realize Monty Python and Jethro Tull and Genesis were all of the same basic generation, you really start to see where all of this came from.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're doing, similar things with two different mediums. So love it.
Yeah. Now we could go on about the Canterbury scene a bit more, but I think we will move on to Pink Floyd. And I know you wanted to talk a little bit about Bike from Piper at the Gates of Dawn. So.
Oh yes. So I guess I have three kind of faces of whimsy, and when you say whimsical, there's kind of three elements I think of. And the very, very, very first one, which should be the top of everyone's mind, is, could it be about a gnome?
I saw that on your
could the song be about a gnome?
He gets it.
Yeah, and I was like, right out the gates, Pink Floyd's first album. I'm sure all of your fans will already know the whole story of Pink Floyd, but they start with the one, the only Syd Barrett back in 1967. First album, Piper at the Gates of Dawn. And basically it's Syd Barrett's album. And there's an element of obviously psychedelic jamming on one half. But most of the album is just these really glorious little 3-minute jewels of storybook songs.
Yeah.
And, right out the gate when you're like whimsy, I was like, The Gnome. Love that song. It's a wonderful song. But at the end of the album, Bike. So Bike, the actual song is only about 1.5 minutes, and it's just, I've got a bike, I've got a mouse, there's a gingerbread man. Like, he's just like, have some whimsical flashes of imagery, all packed up in an unbelievably gorgeous song.
Yeah.
And I think the really interesting thing, coming back to Piper at the Gates of Dawn, I've always loved the album, but with fresh eyes, it's a sonic masterpiece, because good psychedelic music should completely disorient you.
Yeah.
So there's things whizzing all over the place. A trumpet comes in for half a second. This song ends with a cacophony. literal bike ringing. There's just all sorts going on. So it takes an amazing, beautiful storybook song and makes it a psychedelic masterpiece. And that can be said of every single song on this album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You've hit the nail on the head there. I think Syd Barrett, he was just one of those giants of writing psychedelic music. And I can imagine him in the studio actually like pushing for them to experiment with these effects and everything. And it well and truly was his influence that pushed them to do what they eventually did with Meddle and Dark Side of the Moon and all of that. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Great.
And I was going to say, I think the other really interesting thing I'd ask everyone to listen to when they go back to this album, put this in contrast to Sgt. Pepper's. So way back in the day, I'd always been like, Sgt. Pepper's on one hand, Piper at the Gates on the other hand, Moody Blues is in there, Jimi Hendrix. It's all just 1967. What was very interesting for me going back and kind of doing this all chronologically, Sgt. Pepper's is the height of the Beatles' career. They are the biggest band on earth, the best producer on earth, the best studio on earth, most money on earth. They are making a psychedelic masterpiece with the best raw ingredients you can possibly have.
Yeah.
Pink Floyd is meanwhile completing their first album as a bunch of essentially like university dropouts just trying to make it in the London club scene.
Yeah.
So they're in the studio as complete amateurs, flicking stuff at the guitar and whatnot. And it's neither good nor bad nor whatever. Both are masterpieces. It was just interesting to hear the Beatles at the height of their career and Pink Floyd at the start of their career, both kicking off at 1967 or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was a really interesting thing to go back and listen to.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to do that myself now, actually. Good idea.
So there you go. Pink Floyd, it's about a gnome. You couldn't get more whimsical than that.
And another band you mentioned earlier, Jethro Tull.
So Jethro Tull.
The one that came to my mind as well as yours, as I saw from your notes, is Jack and the Green. Now, I wasn't familiar with the character of Jack and the Green because I know it's like a mythical English character, and he's some sort of kind of spiritual protector of nature.
So this album, Songs from the Wood, I never know how to pluralize this. Songs from the Wood is their 1977. Songs from the Wood is their 1977 album. So Ian Anderson was very tired by the touring and the prog and all the nonsense. So he retired to the English countryside to kind of refresh his spirit. And he came back with this album, Songs from the Wood. And the interesting thing about Songs from the Wood is it's basically a bunch of kind of rural vignettes. Everything's moderately folky, obviously with their kind of Jethro Tull hard rock and prog style.
Yes.
And I think Jack and the Green is maybe a specific folkloric thing, but I think more broadly, it's just a little guy who lives in the woods helping spring come. And I'm not sure, we kind of got in this on the episode. I'm not sure if it's a very specific thing. And it's the same thing with Cup of Wonder, another song on this album. I'm not sure if he's talking about any specific folklore or if he's just, that sounds folklore enough. But yeah, this is a charming, charming song. And he captures the idea of being a little elf guy living in the woods, making spring. He captures that so well. We kind of talked about this album as a song cycle that kind of mapped onto the year. So you've got your springs and your winters, and he does such a good job of kind of getting the seasonal flair of each song. And this song captures the little do-do-do-do-do of springing in the wonderful England.
Yeah. And you can actually imagine Ian as that character himself with his movement.
Oh my God, it was wonderful.
His leg while he was playing his flute and everything. The cod piece on him.
And I was going to say, I think he encapsulates the. Yeah, he does. He encapsulates that gnomish gnomish whimsy, and funnily enough, kind of related to that, this song he recorded in one blast, and this is the only song on this album that's just Ian Anderson alone. So normally Jethro Tull is in fact the whole band. This song really is just Ian Anderson. So you are getting a window into that gnomish spirit of his. And I really like, this was his kind of like, you can hear in this album him coming back to life, like a snowdrop blasting through the snow. So,
yeah, absolutely. No, I think it was in your notes actually. Is it about a frog? Written after this song, or is it about a toad? We'll never know. Yeah. Brilliant! I love the way you look at things. It's absolutely brilliant.
Well,
but yeah, I will move us on now. Sorry, I'm so medieval here with my little notepad.
No.
So
good.
I'm going to try and move us on a little bit now. Supper's ready.
Fabulous.
The Epic by Genesis, closing foxtrot. I think that is full of whimsy. Some of the lyrical content, the instrumentation in there, these weird sound effects, mum diddly washing, dad diddly office, the flower.
Yeah.
What was it? What was I going to say there? I love the part, this little tiny part in it, where you can just hear him going, all change.
Yeah.
You hear in every train station in England.
Yep.
Little bits and pieces like that, I think really, really help this music along. And it's, again, all going back to that Englishness.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, kind of what we were talking about earlier with them all coming of the Monty Python generation. Yeah. I think this era of Genesis is the Peter Gabriel era of Genesis. They're staring at an Englishness. Part of the legend of the next album after this, so this is 1972's Foxtrot, and the next album will be Selling England by the Pound in 1973. Part of the legend is that, the lyrics are talking about an England that is losing its soul to the American influence.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much they really mapped that out, but I think that's a pretty fair interpretation of it, I guess.
Yeah.
That I feel like Peter Gabriel is looking at the adorable little village green or Willow's farm where whatever hijinks are happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's just throwing these little English vignettes in there.
Yeah.
And I think on the next album, actually, like the king of all vignettes for me, because it's in just a 4-minute block, is I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe, just about a shiftless, whatever it is, lawnmower who just doesn't want to get up and mow the village green or whatever it is. And I think it's just like, I don't know who Jacob is, but I know Jacob.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think,
met this character numerous times in life.
Met that character when I was living in 1973 England. But I think to take it back to Supper's Ready, I think it's that strung together, 7 odd times where he's just dropping you into villages across England, or vignettes in these villages across England. And you're like, oh, you're cooking tea. Oh, as sure as eggs is eggs. Oh, this is so delightful. Yeah. And I think that genuinely, actually, that resonated with me because that's how I experienced England. So I guess for those at home, lived in England for 12 years. And, being an outsider to England, that's exactly how I experienced it, where I was just popping in like, oh, we're all wearing tea cozies on our head. And like, oh, oh, this is so delightful. So, sorry, England, I love you. So anyways, that's what was going on there. I think the other really interesting thing more broadly in prog rock at this point, this was really the point where all the bands decided to try their hand at a long song. So obviously, Yes is just doing Yes things. Yes is just like, here, have another 20 minutes. Pink Floyd did Metal at this point, Atom Heart Mother. Like, I think this is the point where all of the bands had to just have one crack at it just to know.
Yeah.
So this is Genesis's epic entry into the epic world. Thick as a Brick is this year. Yeah, this is the long song era of prog.
Yeah. Gosh, Thick as a Brick. That's another one you could put into this.
Well, so actually, we'll get to that right about now. So my other kind of image. Yep. Did you have anything else about Supper's Ready?
Oh, go for it.
Here we go. So my other facet of whimsy is, could a troupe of troubadours play this? And a band, and it's not fair to say troubadours, but a band you showed to me that I had not partaken of was Horselips.
Yes.
So tell me about Horselips, because you had them on your radio program.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, I was like, where have they been my whole life?
I know, they're fantastic. The Horselips are an Irish prog band, and they didn't really make it big outside of Ireland, so they're not very known. And I've made it my mission to introduce people all over the world to them. But I played them on my radio show for the whimsical kind of thing, because they have an album called The Tawn, and it's literally just about a prize bull and two provinces in Ireland fighting over it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they're a brilliant band. They fuse Irish trad music with rock. A lot of people say they remind them of Jethro Tull, but they have that Irish edge to them, You can hear people drinking and having a laugh in the pub and some of their tunes, like just very Irish stuff. And so I'm glad that you discovered them through the radio.
Yeah, they were excellent.
That I sent you. Excellent.
So what would be your top like 2 or 3 or whatever for the folks at home? Because what would be your Horselip suggestion?
Oh, see, it's hard to pull songs from their albums because they're all like big concepts. Oh, but I would recommend listening to the album The Tawn in full. It's fantastic, and it's not too long either. Like, it's kind of there's little interludes and stuff leading into songs and that, so there's nothing too much of a slog to listen to. It's fantastic.
Yeah, very much enjoyed them.
Awesome.
So the other kind of troubadour band I can think of, and they literally have a song called Raconteur Troubadour. So Gentle Giant. So Gentle Giant were probably, I'd say, the 7th biggest prog band. After all of your famous ones, then there's Gentle Giant right under them.
Yeah.
And they had Kerry Minier, and Kerry Minier was I guess, medieval music enthusiast. I don't know what the deal was there, but their songs are like plucked right off of the broadsheets of like Henry VIII's court. Yeah. They have a lot of songs that are really like blended with a lot of really amazing jazz, classical, hard rock, and just good old fashioned prog.
Yeah.
So they kind of whip from side to side to side of like, okay, we're rocking, we're grooving, just kidding, it's time for a madrigal.
Yeah.
And they do this all in like 4 minutes. It's incredible.
It is.
So yeah, take me on a Gentle Giant journey. Did you have any whimsical thoughts about Gentle Giant?
Gentle Giant were brilliant at what they did, and when I think of the whimsical side, I think of songs like Dog's Life or Black Cat.
Yep.
And Black Cat, you think it's these really weird, they use this weird kind of violin sound to make it sound like the cat meowing, and you really do think it's about this slinky black cat, but it turns out it's actually about a female.
Okay, as you do.
On the hunt, but we never find out what she's hunting for.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. No, what I was going to say.
What about you? What's your viewpoint?
So Black Cat is a wonderful choice, and as you say, that really like slinking jazz, and I think the next level they go up. So that was from their second album, and the next level they go up in their kind of writing, compositional ability. As I say, they flip between genres every 2 seconds. Like it's madness. And they really get into these kind of madrigals being interwoven, very medieval sounding vocal harmonies and stuff. So as I said, Raconteur Troubadour is off of probably their greatest hits album, Octopus. Like it's just their classic album. On that album, though, is both Advent of Panurge and Knots.
Yeah.
And both of these are songs that are they're complicated, and there's a lot of doodly doodly do, Pied Piper playing his little flute type of moments, combined with genuinely good lyrics and actually amazing rock and roll.
Yeah.
And I think, they're a really complicated band. It's very off-putting to some people. Totally understand that. But if you need some madrigal like whimsy, if you need to be transported back to Tudor England, there's no better place I would start than Gentle Giant. So
yeah,
I love them.
Too right. Yeah. All right, Ian. I think we'll wrap it up here. I think that was a fantastic analysis of everything. So thank you very much for sharing your whimsical wisdom with us.
There you go. Yeah.
And
thank you
we
so
are
much for having me.
definitely going to have him back on. So don't forget to check out the podcast, which will be linked in the description. And I will link Ian's Instagram too, so you can check out the graphics that we were talking about. Ian, anything you want to say to the people?
No, that's about. Nope, that's about all I had. Come check out the podcast. We're having a great old time over there, just doing an album at a time. And yeah, as I say, we're about to go on hiatus for a little bit, and then we'll be back with classic rock prog in probably the end of this year. So come on over, say hi, let us know your craziest fan theories. Actually, that's something I wanted to, that is something I'll plug right now. So we just did our mailbag episode, and one of my co-hosts, Brian, put it out to the fans. So I'll put it out to everyone there. If you have any really insane, fun concept album theories about what these albums are actually about, chuck them our way. We want to hear that. That's what I'll say to you guys.
Excellent. So you heard him. Go and do it.
Yeah. I want wacky theories, please.
Awesome. Right. Well, thank you very much again, Ian. And to all of you viewers, please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we will see you in the next one. Bye.